Hey everybody, what's going on? I thought we would talk about the Guild Boss today. It's kind of a little pocket set of content, and I haven't seen a lot of material on it. And it's one of the few places in the game where you can see what your guildmates are doing, but there's no list of like the most successful teams across the server like there are for the other dungeons and stuff. So it can be a little harder to come in here and find some success. So I thought we would talk about some different stages of the game based on where you're at and what you can be striving for. When you're in the earlier game and you're developing your account, as long as you can do over 2 million per hit, you can get enough damage to get your personal rewards, okay? So that's kind of your first goal, is getting over 2 million a hit. And then if you can start getting a little bit more, you can knock it out in three hits, and then 2 hits, and then eventually later down the line, depending on what you pull, you can get to a point where maybe you're doing it in 1 hit. All right, so let's talk about some important units that everybody's going to have access to that can be very good in here. Okay, I think that for the water one, and we're only talking about the water one today, we'll come back later and talk about some of the other ones, but I think Water Popo is perhaps the most important unit that's available to everybody for this content. Okay, she has turn cycling, which is very handy, and speed up, which is going to help with the turn cycling. She's got a pretty good attack lead for tree teammates, which you should be primarily focusing on tree teammates for this. It's going to give you a pretty big advantage. Her bread and butter for this, though, is the A2, the attack down and defense down in one skill. Both of these are very important debuffs for this content. Defense down, obviously, because you want to do more damage. But this attack down is going to be pretty mandatory because the boss gets stronger as the fight goes on. And if you can keep an attack down up for the whole fight, you're going to be in such good shape. Your life is going to be so much easier if you can keep the attack down up. The difference in taking a hit with it versus without it is night and day. Your units are going to get one-shotted if you don't have an attack down up after a certain point in the fight. And then here we got the blind on the A1, which is also kind of handy. Just absolutely, I would say mandatory for this. You saw I've got a 12 million damage run. We've only put in 1 run, and that's the damage we got, and it's because of her. Like, obviously, I have other units doing the damage, but the run does not go on long enough for us to do that damage without her on the team. So I think every single person doing this content should build the Tree Popo Rider, and she is worth a 6-star for it. I had her at 5-star, and we would do okay, but at a certain point, if he gets a lucky hit on her that's not a glance, at 5-star, it's just a little too hard to keep her alive. So if you 6-star her, you scale her stats up quite a bit more. Makes it a lot easier to keep her alive. You see, she's not in crazy gear. She's decently fast, has decent HP, and then enough accuracy to land her debuffs. And then I've got her on some Inspire to help out with our Gunslinger and our other damage. So if you can get Inspire on her, that's great. But that's basically what you're looking to do, is shoot up the HP, get a decent amount of speed on her, get enough accuracy, which I don't know how much is enough. I feel like in my experience, you don't really need a lot of accuracy for this content. I actually don't know what the threshold would be, but I feel like I've got units in here that have low accuracy. Like, he's got 13, and he'll still land his debuffs sometimes. So I would err on the side of caution. You know, I don't know. I feel like for some reason in my head, anything over 30 would be fine. But for the sake of it, just get over 50. You know, get what you can. And then if you can load up a little bit of extra defense, fine. But basically just a tanky, relatively fast, accurate unit for this content. She'll be fine. All right, very, very, very good. I think everybody should have her on the team. She's just so good for it. Okay. I think does the tree clown? He's got an attack down on the A1. He's also not bad. If you're on a serious budget and you're very early game, this is not a bad unit for this. He brings the defense down. He's got a decent heal. He's got crit dampen, which is very handy, and then he's got an attack down on the A1 too. I think that the tree clown could be pretty good for this content, to be honest with you. Another unit that I think would be pretty good in here for some protection is the Tree Steel Wings. I was using the Tree Steel Wings for quite a while until I decided to try the Fire Clockwork thing, because he was giving my Gunslinger a few buffs, and he's bringing something else that's very important to this content, and that's a defense buff. So you want both an attack down and a defense buff. In my experience, having one or the other is not enough. You need the attack down and you need the defense buff. And you need somebody that can keep that up fairly regularly, okay? Fairly often. So he's really good for this, right? He's got the slow. I don't think you can dot this boss, if I am not mistaken. I don't think you can dot. So he's not really going to do much for you in the way of damage, but he's going to allow the run to go on a lot longer, which means that whoever you have in there doing damage is going to get to do it for longer, which is ultimately going to result in a better run, right? So also a very good unit for this. And then another unit that's really not bad for this at all is the Tree Turtle Tank. He's pretty good everywhere. You should have one built for sure if you've got him. He's great in Tunnel. He's great in Abyss. He's great in here. He's pretty solid, right? The cooldown is going to be nice for your team for just the 2 units that we have in currently, because we want to cycle back around to this as frequently as we can. It's on a 2-turn cooldown, so she can probably cycle around it and keep it going. It might not even be a bad idea to turn on her intelligence and make that the top priority, because you want her doing it every single time it's available, and to keep that attack down up, okay? And then same with him. He should prioritize this anyway. Actually, yeah, I don't use him in here anymore, so his AI is a little different, but I think you probably want to avoid this. You want him doing this as much as possible, right? I'm going to leave that on because I'm using that for something else, I think. And then Turtle Tank, again, can help alleviate. You can cycle back around with the cooldown, give everybody a speed buff. Not super ideal, but depending on the team you're running, can be very nice. For example, if you're running a Tree Gunslinger team, then he's going to be pretty nice because he's going to help your Tree Gunslinger do his Magnum Tornado a little bit more frequently, right? But again, solid unit. So now you've got a decent little core, and we could take this out, and we could even look for another good tree unit to put in here. Obviously, some of you are going to have decent Nat 5s. She brings a lot of protection. She can be very nice. And I realized recently she does kind of a sneaky amount of damage with this A2. She does damage equal to 20% of her max HP. She cannot crit or glance and can't be countered. I feel like this is true damage. I went against her. I went against a defense that had her on it, and I had my water dome fighter. And she was really doing a lot of damage to my water dome fighter. So I think this is true damage. So if you tank her up, it's kind of decent. Can like relative to the support that she's also bringing, not a bad unit for this. And that A2 is kind of. She hit my dome fighter. And I was like, like literally took me aback for a second. I was like, what the hell was that? How'd she hit me so hard? So then I had to go actually read the skill, and I think it might be true damage. So kind of cool. Great support. I would say if we're going for a core 3 based on Nat 3s, these are your 3, right? You've got your attack down, defense down, turn meter cycling, and a speed buff. You've got your defense buff. Attack buff is a nice cherry on top, but really what we're here for is this defense up and the slow. And then you've got a very solid support for any water content that's, again, fairly budget, right? You get her, mine's a little slow, but you get her decently fast, decently tanky. She's going to do great work for you. And again, if you can sneak some crit on her, she can actually put in some pretty nice damage, especially in something like this. So yeah, good unit, good support. So I would say this would be like your core 3 that you could build a very successful team around. I don't see any reason that this couldn't very easily be a 2 million damage team, even if you use all Nat 3s, right? So I would say that like the Tree Sharpshooter, fantastic little damage dealer for something like this for anybody on a budget, right? You build her fairly standard build. Now she's got a defense down. If you're only going to use her in here, I don't think you really need to focus on that because your Tree Popo Rider is going to be taking care of that. So you can just worry about her damage. You're probably going to want a little bit of HP on her. Like you'd want to focus her survivability a little bit because again, the boss is going to start hitting kind of hard as the fight goes on. So you got to be kind of careful about having her too squishy, even though she's got good support. But excellent unit. So this is a solid 4 to build around here. And then for that last unit, you know, you could probably try to go Dark Sharpshooter. You have to be careful about the element, right? Not having the elemental advantage, but Lots of stuff you could squeeze in here. Surely some of you have got a tree twin. Twin could be fantastic. You could try to go, if you've got the tree gunslinger, of course, he's excellent in here. And I would even venture to say, if you're going to do that, you could probably take out maybe her for like the turtle tank and just have the turtle tank be either a little bit slower. Yeah, probably a little bit slower, so that he comes in behind him and just keeps refreshing his cooldown so he can pop off a little bit more. But something like this would be a really nice setup. Again, I think Tree Twin, I love Tree Twin in every single bit of content I've used him in lately, so he's definitely become one of my favorites. If you've got him, I think this would be a very solid team. You can kind of fill in that last spot. Honestly, I was using the Tree Monk when I was newer and limited. I was using him. You're looking at someone that's got an A1 defense down. He's got pretty good damage. He can take care of himself. He puts a counter attack up, which is pretty handy. He puts healing overturn on all allies. Pretty handy, right? And then he also does extra damage that's equal to his some of his defense, right? Solid unit, easy to keep alive, and you'll get a surprising amount of damage for him early in the game. He's not going to end up on like a 10 million damage plus team, I wouldn't think, but very solid for it. So you've got lots of options for that last spot. Just you could throw in another damage if you feel like you need a little bit more support. You could go that route. Something like that would probably not be too bad. But I think that this core 4 should work for everybody getting into the content, right? And then as you progress, your gear gets better. You start getting more units. You could start to deviate a little bit and start thinking about stuff like this. And then maybe you hit a point where you've got the gear where maybe you could swing something like, something like that. And then you get a little closer to like what I'm running, for example. If you've got a water nurse, she's insane. She is such an insane unit. So like I run this. And that's what got me my big damage. I don't think I'm going to do that much damage every time, but it's obviously the potential's there. Light Robot, just a quick note for Light Robot. If you've got the Light Robot and he's not built, fix it. He is insane. He is insane. He has changed every single piece of content that I've put him on a team in. He's changed it for the better. He is absolutely ridiculous, okay? So that's closer to something, that you could work toward a little later if you've got these kinds of units. But like, for example, even if you've got the Light Robot and you're still rocking the initial thing we were talking about, that doubles up on support. You have an insane amount of turn cycling, which means if you've got her intelligence set to this on high especially, he's going to make sure she gets to keep that attack down up. He's going to get to keep that defense buff up. She's going to keep heals and shields available. He's got cooldown reduction, and she's going to get to pump out a bunch of damage. Something like this, I think, would do very well in here. So, like, if you've got, like, Robot, right? Like I said, this core 4 is, I think, a very, very good place to start. I think that you could easily get up to, like, doing this in 3 hits with this being your core team, depending on who your last unit is. So, like, I'll tell you what, we'll test it real quick. I'm going to throw in my Light Robot, because I think he's just kind of a fun extra unit to throw in here. And I'm going to do a test run, and we'll come back at the end and see what kind of damage we do. Again, without me re-gearing anybody, I'm just gonna drop them in as is and see how we end up. Okay, and actually, let's turn on this. I want her doing this as frequently as possible. And then I think everybody else should be fine. He should already A3 as much as possible. I'll keep an eye on him. If he messes up, I'll fix it. But yeah, I'm gonna do a test run. We'll come back at the end and see how they did. All right. So there you have it. That's nearly a 3 million damage run without like re-gearing or tuning or anything. Just taking these units with the gear that they happen to have on for whatever other content I'm doing with them, and they put up almost 3 million. So of course, if you focus damage a little bit harder on your sharpshooter, it would go better. If she was a little bit faster, it would probably go a lot better. But there you go. That's sort of the basis, sort of a foundation of a team. Again, Light Robo is, of course, very helpful for that. But my point is that there are, I think for starting out in this content, this is a great core 4. And then you've certainly got something else that's a good a good 5th unit. Light Robo is fantastic. I think Tree Twin would be really good. Any other support, you could do something like that. You have lots of options for that last spot. So play around with it, and don't be afraid to use this test feature. This test feature is pretty pretty useful, okay? Anytime you're going to try a new team that you're not sure about, just test it. Just let it run through a test phase and just kind of see. Sometimes you'll see something go wrong and be like, oh, I can fix that with, a little bit more HP, or I can fix this, whatever it may be. Use the test feature, but that's a pretty good place to start. So, and then as you push through, you'll pull your water nurse and you'll start doing your crazy stuff like that. And then I tried this. I tried my actual team, which, put my old team back in. You know what I mean? Give me a preset or something. Who was it? It was Light Robo. It was Tree Gunslinger. It is Fire Clockwork. It is Water Nurse, and it is Tree Popo Rider. That's my team. I did this team in Dark, and they did about 5 million as well. So I think there's some potential in there also. But yeah, we'll talk about some of the other elements a little bit later into the future. I think I'm doing like three keys right now. I'm saying keys because of raid. I'm doing like, it takes me 3 hits to get my 10 million fire. I'm going to try to change that this week. I'm going to see if I can at least get it to 5 million this week. But anyway, that's it. Hopefully this helps you approach that content. I know there's not a lot going on about it. And again, the game doesn't really give you access to server-wide teams the way the other content does. So it can be a little bit harder to figure something out. But that's it. Hopefully it helps. Let me know what teams you guys are running in there. If you're running any interesting units, if you found anybody that shines in there kind of unexpectedly, let me know. I'd be kind of interested to hear about that. And yeah, maybe we'll do the same for the next ones. But that's it. Hope it was helpful. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one. I'll see you later.